Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome to Up at Night. This podcast is all about learning from thought leaders, academics, and professionals based on one fundamental question. What keeps you up at night? Welcome to Up at Night. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Tara Conway. Tara is not just a digital pioneer, someone extremely known with a great reputation in the retail world as well. She's a mentor, a coach for executive leader, activator at Coralus, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, Tara, because that's very interesting, and also an ambassador for Ladies Who's Logistic. Tara has been dedicated in helping women entrepreneurs break through barriers and build meaningful communities. I'm so happy to be joined by you today. How are you doing, Tara?
I'm fabulous. I'm excited to be here. I'm so honored to be included on the podcast. I mean, I've listened to a lot of them, and it's amazing to be part of this group. So I'm very excited.
Thank you. So you have an extensive career in retail. You've been at multiple places. Could you please tell the audience a little bit what's your background and how this background brought you to your current journey and mission as a digital pioneer?
Mm-hmm. My entire background has been in the retail space. My mother owned a general store as a child. So the four of us took turns working in the store. So retail is in our blood. It's in our family. And, coming out of university, I was just, what do I do? Where do I go? I naturally defaulted to retail. I was with Blacks originally. So a great experience about how not to look at the future and adapt and be flexible, but still a great experience. And the majority of my career was actually at Toys R Us. And I joined the Toys R Us team at the very beginning of the World Wide Web and e-commerce. I mean, I'm aging myself, but I'm comfortable with that. And I took the role not knowing that I was going to be part of something that was going to transform retail. I took the role because I was excited about joining a brand. I mean, who doesn't want to be a Toys R Us kid? It's a fantastic brand. You'd have access to toys. I still have many toys. And we were part of a 4-person team launching e-commerce in Canada. And
when was that?
Okay, I'm old, but I'm going to say, so we launched in 2004.
Wow.
And it was a time when retailers were absolutely dead set against the concept of people shopping online. We were seen as the team that was going to be cannibalizing from physical stores. We were the team that was crazy. I mean, who would be responding to an email? Who would be purchasing and paying for shipping? I mean, no one would have thought about it in the early 2000s. And so I was part of a very, very small team that we just learned how to do everything. With 4 people in a digital space, and you know it well, you wear the hats of every single department. So some days I was pickpacking boxes. Some days I was checking credit cards for fraud check. Some days I was answering calls from customers. It really didn't matter. We wore all the hats, and it was such an exciting journey. And when I reflect back at it, I'm in awe of what we did in the time that we were focused on launching e-commerce and then moving into an omni-channel retail role, which at that time, taking digital and physical and bringing the two together was not heard of. And I mean, I was so blessed. We had the most incredible president who was absolutely, let's give it a try. This all sounds really, really good. And, we turned it around. We were one of the most successful countries around the world at Toys R Us. So it was an exciting time to be part of retail and part of digital. And then I took that and I went over to the Source team, so consumer electronics, and focused on how do we bring telco and subscriptions into a digital age and a digital shopping platform. So it's just been a fantastic journey in the retail landscape. A little challenging, I know, for retailers currently, but not something I'd ever trade in for anything.
and it's as you're talking about that, I can see the parallel happening right now with data and AI.
Absolutely.
How crazy the following and the upcoming year will be. I think it's very hard to predict where it's going to go, but what's your takeaway on that?
I use the correlation often in that, the launch of e-commerce and digital in the early 2000s and then even just, the introduction of smartphones and mobile and what
Mm.
that did to retail, very, very similar to AI, except AI is happening in the span of, it feels like weeks and months, whereas digital and mobile adoption and integration took several years. And to the point that there are some retailers that are jumping over the true digital infrastructure and jumping right into AI
Mm.
as its platform and infrastructure, which, some might say give them a leg up, a
An
little
edge.
bit of a
Yeah.
benefit. Yes.
Yeah. I think we need these advancements, especially in competitive markets. So I'm really looking forward to see where that evolve. Now, from a human perspective, and we know each other, I know how involved and how important um, entrepreneurship and empowering women in entrepreneurship is important to you. So please tell us a little bit about Coralus and also Ladies Who Logistic and also the other initiatives. I know you spoke with my sister who's an entrepreneur and you're active. What brought you to realize that help was required and needed amongst that specific
Well, I
category of
left.
entrepreneur?
Yeah, I left my executive role 2 years ago. I had a great experience and I had these options ahead of me in that did I want to continue? Did I want to continue into retail? Or did I want to kind of focus into a different area that I found a lot of passion in? I had been an activator with Coralus for 2 years and was able to see the impact that Coralus was having on female founders across Canada. And I found if I had to weigh out what was feeding my soul and driving, like really driving my passion, I was leaning towards being part of a group of women that were coming together that were absolutely transforming how we could approach business, how we could approach supporting and funding entrepreneurs, and just how we could approach community. It's
Mm.
absolutely astounding what's been achieved in 10 years at Coralus. And so I made the decision not to go back into the retail world and really devote my time to female founders and entrepreneurs. And, you know, people often think I'm crazy for doing it. I loved one of your last podcasts with Sandrine when she said, some people said courageous, some people think crazy. I think a lot of people might think I'm crazy, but I'm absolutely loving it because I'm part of a community and supporting people who are somewhat disadvantaged. They're
Mm.
disadvantaged. Female entrepreneurs face a lot of challenges, and you spend time talking to entrepreneurs, and it's a tough road. It's a tough
Yeah.
journey. As you know, it can be very lonely. And I think even more so with female entrepreneurs and female founders. And in my career, I was always blessed to have incredible female leaders. I was always blessed to have opportunities everywhere I could look. I never felt like I was being held back. Everything was made available to me. And it wasn't until the last few years that I realized that isn't the case for most. And so I want to be part of the change that is making it the case for most. So Coralus is a group. It's actually was founded in Canada, and it is a global program, but it is a group of activators. And I would kind of, for the audience, compare it to crowdfunding.
Hmm.
So it's a group of activators who live on the premise of radical generosity. We make contributions every year, and those contributions are given to ventures, and they're female-founded ventures. So 51% owned, either female or non-binary. And these ventures all have to have a initiative that rolls up into the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So really doing something that is going to make a difference in the world. And it's an incredibly exciting group to be part of because it's fully democratized. As an activator, my voice is as loud as the person next to me, as the person in the US, as the person in the UK. Our voices are equal. And each year, we receive submissions for ventures, people who are looking for funding. And we all have an equal vote and an equal participation in which ventures receive that funding.
That's amazing.
It is amazing to be part of. It's the best kept secret, I think, in Canada right now. We have close to $20 million out there active in the hands of close to 200 ventures. And to see what these people, these women are doing with the funding is fabulous.
So being connected with that community, what would you say is in 2025 the biggest challenge women will face going into entrepreneurship?
Oh, I'm going to answer this in the politically correct way, and I'm going to focus on the funding. Female-founded businesses are underfunded. I mean, currently in Canada, it's less than 4% of VC funding is allocated to women.
Seriously?
Yes, less than 4%, and it's. Go ahead.
I'm so surprised it's only 4%, and where the root cause lies. Is it because before even starting they get discouraged? Why is that?
I would say it's both. So when you look at women, there's a lower intent to become an entrepreneur, and I think that is just something that we tend to grow up with.
Okay.
There's just some gender bias that exists, and I'm not saying that women aren't encouraged to have successful careers. Women aren't encouraged to do something as risky and challenging as being an entrepreneur. So female founders typically don't have the support that you would see with traditional male founders. And I do think that, and I don't listen, I'm not an expert on the bias that can exist in VCs or in funding systems. I think the data is there. I subscribe to a group. It's the WEC, so it's the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, and all it does is actually do research to understand what are the challenges and what are the barriers that are existing for women. And a lot of the data that comes out of that is that it actually tends to be just in women walking in the door. They will typically be looked at in a very different way, traditionally different way than a male founder. I laughed I shouldn't say that. When Sandrine mentioned in one of the previous podcasts about she brought on a gentleman because she was too female. And it is a true thing. It's a true thing that exists for female founders. So I'm not here to go and fight the system and change the mindset within VCs or PEs, any of that. What I'm here to do is to provide a different outlet and a different support structure for women. And I think that's what Coralus is doing. We are bringing together like-hearted and like-minded women into communities where we can support growth, and we can do it in a very different way.
Thank you for that, for sharing that, because a lot of interesting statistics and insight that I really think worth shining some light on, because 4% is definitely not enough. I agree with you. If you were to reflect on your own entrepreneurial journey, what was, I'll call it, the biggest aha moment or a humbling moment where you've learned something that you would like to transmit to other entrepreneurs?
And I am a consummate learner. I love to learn. But what I realized in my career I was learning in a well-protected, well-insulated bubble that the leaders that I had around me, the brands that I worked for, we were destined to be successful. I didn't face challenges the way that many other women have faced challenges. So to come out of that bubble and live in the real world and have these real conversations, it was humbling. I didn't realize I was so oblivious. I was living this life that was so privileged, and yet so many other, I say women, but I mean underrepresented groups, they live a life of challenge. And so for me, that was the eye opener that said, okay, time to pivot, time to really take what I've learned and the experience that I have and use my superpowers for good. And that's it. Because I have such a diverse background, I can sit and talk tech, or I can sit and talk marketing, or I can geek out in logistics, which I absolutely love to do, which is why I'm part of the Ladies Who Logistics group. Again, we're a group of women that come together because there's so few women in the logistics and supply chain space.
It is.
And our whole goal is just to build a community that continues to support, continues to open doors, continues to break barriers. And it's another incredible community of just helping women get further faster.
And it's a fast-paced environment. Entrepreneurship is... Now, talking about that, you were at NRF last week, I think.
I was.
And things change extremely fast. There's a lot of political tension for us Canadian right now, and even the Europe side. I think a lot of people are a bit stressed with what's happening in the US. Retail in general is going through a lot of change, a lot of pressure, a lot of large group buying smaller players. My question to you is, where is retail going, in your opinion? What do you see being outside of the picture, talking to so many people, that many of us who are day in, day out working on our business, what we might not be able to see?
Well, I mean, I was part of the era of the demise of retail apocalypse. I was part of that. It was going down. E-commerce was taking over the world. I mean, I was part of e-commerce. I never believed it. I never bought into it. I don't believe retail is going anywhere, but I do think there's a lot of retailers that their lack of innovation and their lack of flexibility and their lack of adaptability, that's what has put them in the position they're in right now. So if there are retailers not testing and learning with AI, if there are retailers that are not moving and looking into the digital space, even looking into, I challenge retailers to think about alternate revenue. We all think we have to sell the products that are in our box. That's it. And one has to complement the other. One has to be an upsell to the other. And the smart retailers right now are the retailers that are finding ways to create different revenue streams. They're the ones that are figuring out, how do I bring traffic in for a different reason so that I can become part of the one-stop shop customers are looking for. I think you're going to start to see a lot more blended retail. Some would have said back in the day, store and store. I think that you're going to see a lot of blended retailers where one complements the other. And I think there's some that are emerging in this space, some that are finding opportunities to bring in complementary brands or services outside of what they traditionally sell.
Focusing more on the experience, I guess. And because ultimately, I tend to agree. People think the transaction only happens when the wallet goes out and there's money coming out of the customer wallet. But time is the first transaction a customer goes through going to a specific space. So getting the best return on investment from that aspect is critical.
Yes. My
so
time
it's interesting
and my
to see this trend.
convenience. Yes. And I do think that, we're going to start shifting to borderless retail. I mean, I know, the tariff conversation, all of that aside, and the barriers of entry into different markets it's being reduced. Technology is allowing people to cross into markets that they've never been part of before.
True.
And the fact that we are virtual, in many cases, is allowing a lot of brands to expand in a way that they wouldn't have traditionally before. They wouldn't have set up a head office, set up a Canadian team. They don't need to do that anymore. Because of the opportunities that being virtual, running a business virtually is providing, it's going to shift. It's open. It's going to allow some retailers with vision to get into other markets in a very different way, markets that they would have never considered before.
That's exciting. That's exciting because if it could allow medium-sized businesses to be accessible geographically amongst a larger demographic, I think it would be beneficial for everybody. Now, I'm curious, if you were to start a new venture, what would keep you up at night? You're starting, Tara, you're going back in business, you're starting your own business. What would be the biggest source of stress for you?
In the last few years of working with entrepreneurs, the one thing I realized that is impacting the most is sometimes the loneliness. And I think that's what would really be difficult for me. I'm a social creature. You and I have been at conferences together. I think you feel the same way I do.
Yes.
We love to interact. We love to talk to people. We love to learn. And I feel as entrepreneurs, it can be a pretty lonely space because it's so unique. Your journey is so unique. It is so difficult because you wear all the hats. All the decisions are yours. And there's not a lot of people in the world that can relate to that experience. Being, some days I'm guessing you were a marketer, and some days I'm guessing you went and packed some mattresses.
Yeah. And some days I have to look at finance document, and that's still the part I hate the most. I'm not a finance guy. But you got to learn. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the one thing that would keep me up at night if I was really to go out and do this myself. There's a lot of hurdles, I think, that are in front of entrepreneurs right now. And, there's a lot of constraint on investment. This is the 2020, 2021 where VCs were giving away money like it was monopoly money. So limitations on investment. And, what I've also seen, especially in Canada, is the big are getting bigger. There's a lot of M&A action.
Yes.
So the middle guy is being absorbed. So there's the large enterprise, and then there's the small businesses. The ability to scale is difficult. So I think there's many things that are positive. We're going to have AI. AI is going to help entrepreneurs probably even more so than enterprise, because entrepreneurs, small, medium, there's a lot less risk. You can dabble, and then you push the button, then you can turn it off really quick too. Nobody noticed. But in enterprise, larger brands, they have to be far more cautious.
Yes.
So I don't know if I would ever, Tirma, I don't know if I'd have the courage to start my own business other than, the consulting I'm doing right now. It's daunting. You all are unique. That take on the challenge of entrepreneurship.
I appreciate your honesty. And I think it's important for people who entertain that thought to be aware, like you said, that it's a step toward being a bit more unbalanced. It's the step towards being and going on a lonely journey. And like you said, and I want your opinion on that, because you see a lot of people in retail. It's true that the investor is a lot more careful nowadays than it was pre-pandemic. What did you see in the market, and what would be an advice you would give to new entrepreneurs about thinking, raising capital, or looking at how to structure financially the business, what would you tell them?
My natural gut, which I mean, my first answer should always be it depends. It really depends on what kind of business and what you're looking to achieve and how big you want to get. A tech business is far different than somebody going into a retail space making physical product. But I default to bootstrapping. I do. It's just, and maybe it is because I'm a woman looking at VCs and looking at fundraising and seeing the lack of female leadership and representation within the VCs and the lack of support that previous women have gotten. So I lean into bootstrapping. I lean into crowdfunding, and I do lean into the idea of these community-based groups where it's almost a form of angel investment, but the return is very, very different.
I think it's a good way to test a minimum viable product and see if there's a good market fit. Because you're absolutely right. It was very easy to seek funding prior to the pandemic. Right now, there's a lot more stress towards profitability than there was before, especially in retail. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's very difficult to differentiate. And I think that's what a lot of tech founders are finding right now is that there's a lot of noise in the market. Everybody and anybody is creating AI something. I mean, being at NRF, 40 to 50,000 people, hundreds of thousands of vendors, almost everyone walking by their booths, and it is AI to transform your business. But how? And I think that's going to be a real challenge on the tech side is, are you doing something transformative or are you jumping on the bandwagon? Because only a handful are going to rise to the top in the AI space.
I agree. And there's a lot of noise that needs to be separated from what truly makes a difference for your business. So being careful is going to be necessary.
And then on the flip side, to my retail friends, I give the same advice. Be very careful. There's a lot of bad actors. There's a lot of noise. I seek out really great vendors. I like to stress test their tech. I like to understand, what does your integration look like? And if I believe in you, then I will introduce you to people in retail because, I mean, I love retail. I grew up in retail. I want retail in Canada to succeed. And I will find great tech and I will introduce those people to the retailers because it is noisy and it's terrifying to make the wrong choice right now as a retailer.
Yeah, a couple of bad decisions could compromise the whole business.
Yes. There's not a lot of discretionary dollars. I mean, capital. I mean, most retailers have so much intense technical debt. The capital is often being invested in the systems that are required to run the business currently. There's limited funds for investing in new technologies. So the decision has to be correct.
Thank you so much for all that, Tara. Before we wrap up, I would like to know, for the audience, who would be someone that really inspired you? It could be a person, could be a book, could be someone you saw at a conference, and someone that helped you shape that vision, especially amongst the women entrepreneurship community.
I mean, I have people that inspire me almost every day. I just even talking with some of these women that are just, they're not taking no for an answer. They're the ones that make me want to come back every day. The founder of Coralus, Vicky Saunders, if people want to look at somebody who has an incredible career journey and then ultimately got here, that is actually having lasting impact, she inspires me. And every time we speak, she's got a new thing. She's got a new idea to make this group better. I find her beyond impressive. And then as a leader, I mean, I had incredible leadership at Toys R Us. Incredible leadership. I won't call them out individually. I mean, they know who they are. But these were people that just never let me know that I just felt like I could do anything. And They gave me the chance to do everything. So, having great leaders around you, and that's why having strong mentorship and strong champions is so important for women right now. If you are surrounded by that, then you'll continue to push through to get to that next level. So I wake up and I can always find somebody that inspires me.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. So if people would like to follow you, you're pretty active on LinkedIn, right? So they can just look for Tara Conway. I also think you have a website, cannycan with 2i.ca, right?
Yes. Yes. So if you read it that way, absolutely. The way I express it, and not everybody catches this, is it's can I? And
I
usually
can.
it is a question. And I work with women so that I can turn it around into I can, which is a statement. So
Much better way to remember it as well. Tara, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to see you probably at the X3 this year as well.
yes, thank you so much. This is fabulous. I'm really glad you're putting this out there. The content I've heard so far and watched so far, it always makes me stop and pause. So you're bringing in some great guests, and I think it's nice to have a podcast like this available.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tara. Thank you so much for being part of the Up at Night family. If you've liked what you heard today, don't forget to rate, follow, subscribe, or leave me a comment below. New episodes of Up at Night drop every week. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. I'm Jeremiah Curvers. Until next time.